Hello everyone and welcome to LARP Analysis. On today's video I go through the basics of how to first get started with LARPing, because for many people the first time they ever go is one of the most formative moments in their entire LARP career. And for me personally it wasn't so much, but looking back on it, it was definitely a very important step in my LARP career. So for my first ever LARP, I went there at about 13 years old, and I just hated it. It was an awful experience. There was no one role-playing with me. It was terrible. I didn't have fun. But I want to make sure that through this video, people can avoid having such an experience, because I know that many people, their first experience can often be a bit shaky and not massively the best thing they've ever experienced. And hopefully I'd like to mitigate that somewhat with this video. So a couple of weeks ago I uploaded a survey onto Facebook in various places with regards to people's first attempts and first time going LARPing. And there was several questions on this survey, and the aim of it was to get a sense for what people felt like on their first ever event. And with this video, I would like to discuss the results of that survey, as well as give some of my own personal opinions on how to make sure that your first ever LARP event is the best one you can possibly have. So the first thing to talk about is age. Now on the survey, the majority of people said that during their first LARP event, they were around 16 to 24 years old. But the actual range of results was much more varied than that. There were people as young as 10 in some places, and some people as going up into the ages of their late 40s. And my mum, who's thinking about getting started with LARPing, is in her 50s. So the result of this part of the survey was that it doesn't matter how old you are, you're never too old to start LARPing. And there's no sell-by date on your career. And I think that's a very important thing to learn, so that no matter how old you are, you can always get and have a try. So make sure you realise that in case you're either on the older side of things, or if you're really, really young and you just want to get stuck in, there'll always be a LARP for you out there somewhere. Most LARPs you go to will have you create your own character, but many people ask friends and family and organisers for help in this process, and you should never be afraid to do this, because for the organisers, that's pretty much their job and what they're there for. If you want to have the best experience possible, you're going to want to have a character that you can work with, and the organisers are there to help you with that. Never ever be afraid to talk to the organisers about your character, about what you're wanting to do with it, because that's their job. They're there to help you have fun. I would advise against writing a full script for your character, because it's honestly just not quite necessarily so needed. I would recommend writing just a series of bullet points of important facts about your character, important facts in their life and in their history, and that's the sort of thing that you really need to look for with regards to writing out your character. When making their first character, a lot of people mention themselves falling into certain pitfalls, and these pitfall characters that you can find yourself accidentally falling into are the King General and the Edgy Loner. Now with King General, the idea is you walk into and you claim that your character is either an experienced general or a powerful hero, or someone who's already got a decent amount of power and status. Now this is unadvised, because first of all, from like a story perspective, it leaves your character with not much place to grow to. If you're already the best at something, then where do you go on from that? Understand? The other thing is that, let's be honest, in your first time going to like a LARP with like levels, experience, there's a high chance that your first character is probably going to be not too strong. And that's like fine, like, you know, that's how a lot of LARPs work. You start low and you work your way higher. But if you want to do a LARP, you can't really say that you're some super powerful being when you can't actually express that. You don't want to go out saying that you're the best fighter in the kingdom and then get wrecked by like one level 1 goblin, you know? With the Edgy Loner, this is the type of characters that is a really edgy, brooding, antisocial rogue or whatever, and they sit in the taverns with their hoods up and their hands crossed in front of their faces, and thinking, oh, this makes me edgy, this makes me cool. It doesn't. It makes you look like an antisocial weirdo who doesn't spend any time around people, and when people look at you in the tavern, they're not going to think, oh, look at that mysterious figure. They're going to think, oh, okay, never mind, and they're going to carry on talking about their actual fun stuff. The big point of this is that playing a loner character just isn't that fun. Because LARP is ultimately a social game, and a part of a social game is socializing, and if you're sat there being antisocial, you can see how that probably won't work out so well. When you go to your first LARP, you really have to think about whether or not you're going to go on your own or with a group of friends. Now there are pros and cons to both sides. In the survey that I asked, the majority of people said that they went with a group and that this overall improved their experience with the game that they went to. You're more than welcome to go alone, but if you're more of an introverted person, this can lead to problems with regards to opening up to roleplay. This is what happened to me when I started going. I was really nervous and really introverted, and I was on my own, and there was a lot of people there who knew the game much better than me, and I was kind of ignored. And it was a really unpleasant experience. So I definitely recommend, if you're like a bit of a more reserved person or more introverted, I would definitely recommend going with a group. The benefits to going with a group, especially for someone who is quite introverted, is that you're already around a group of people that you know you feel comfortable with, which means you're much more likely to start being comfortable with regards to opening up to roleplay and those sorts of avenues that spread out from that. But if you do go with a group, make sure you know whether or not you and that group will be sticking around when you're in character, or if it's just a thing where you just go to the LARP together. Because if you go to the LARP together, and then you immediately split off and do your own thing, you might as well be going solo. There are definitely some good ways to prepare for your first LARP. Most people agreed that talking to existing players and other friends who were kind of involved in the game was the best route to take. This is likely due to the fact that you get more in touch with the player community, and as I said previously, LARP is a social game. So socialising with people out of character as well as in character is a really good way to build your ties to a game. This also gives you the opportunity to develop in-character ties with other players' characters, so that you can have a bit of more of a story and a bit more of a tie-in when you go to your first game. Other preparations for being in character include getting a feel for your character by really creating a backstory that you really enjoy and you can feel just that pops to you, you know? You also can consider making your own costume and props, but be aware of safety recommendations for the LARP that you're going to. Some games have certain rules with regards to the way that weapons can be made, and some even with things like armour, because a lot of LARPs don't like it if you have lots of armour with pointed parts, because there could be potential injury, but other LARPs are more lenient on that sort of stuff. So you really want to find out what you're going to do with regards to this LARP before you actually start making your props. Another thing you can do is create a music playlist for your character. This is something that I like doing with quite a few of my characters. And it's finding songs that you really feel jive with your character really well. I'll probably do more on this particular section in later videos. Most people mentioned regretting the lack of preparation they put into their first experience. This is things like getting a feel for the character or getting to grips with the background of the game's world that your story is set in. Others mentioned being disappointed with a lack of commitment that they put into aspects of their character, for example, in-game religions or certain personal beliefs. This basically comes down to the ethos that the biggest thing that stifles new players is this reluctance to fully commit to these aspects of their character. This is often due to things like nerves. For LARP, you get out what you put in, so the more effort that you go into developing yourself, the more fun you'll get out. Your first event, just do what you find fun. Everyone has their different opinions about what makes LARP fun, and it's up to you to decide your own. Some people like fighting, some people like roleplay, like really deep personal stuff, and lots of people like a mix of both. I personally fit into the latter category. While I do like marching in with a big shield and a nice huge sword and cluttering up enemies, I also like the really deep personal moments where I talk to other players' characters and get a feel for the world that they are helping to create with me. Seek out what you find fun, and if you're not having fun, talk to the organisers. As I mentioned earlier, you really need to talk to the organisers if you have any problems or you have any thoughts or you have any insecurities about your game. They will be more than happy to help you out and find out where your enjoyment will lie. Remember, their goal in making this game is to make sure that you guys as the players have fun. So their biggest concern is whether or not you're having fun, and if you're not having fun, they'll more than likely be absolutely committed to helping you out. Some things you'll find tough include staying in character, and don't worry, this really happens to everyone. Some people are better at it than others. Stick with it, develop triggers with yourself to help you get back in character, and you should be fine. Now, triggers in this context refers to like mental notes or mannerisms that you can use to identify with your character. For example, one of my characters is a very studious person. He's has lots of arcane knowledge and he's very adept with that sort of thing. So whenever I'm feeling like I'm slipping out of character, I will adjust my scarf or adjust my tie or make sure my collar's working. And this is to get me back in that sort of studious mindset, and that really helps me to sink back into character. Another problem you might find is that in established LARPs, older characters may be much more powerful than newer characters, and unfortunately this sucks and is often the case. This is especially prevalent in quite old and established LARPs. My advice is to play LARPs without such power gaps, but I know this isn't always applicable. If you have immense difficulty enjoying yourself in a LARP with these power differences, and you can't quite find another LARP that can offer you the experience that you want in that regard, find other new players and band together and support one another. And this increases the likelihood that you'll have skills that will complement each other and you won't feel quite so vulnerable all the time. This also allows you to roleplay with these other players, and for your first few events, actually being able to roleplay rather than just thinking about your character's stat line is a really, really important formulative process. If you ask me, most of the fun in LARPs comes from these interpersonal moments where you're just talking to other people's characters as characters, getting to learn them and getting to know more about them. The other major problem that happens is social anxiety. This sucks a huge amount and is often the most common thing to hamper new players. My advice to these people who are suffering from this sort of anxiety is to just give it your best shot, okay? And I would definitely say you want to go with a group, because solo you won't enjoy yourself. I think that you should never be afraid to excuse yourself from the game, to take a few minutes to yourself. If you let an organizer know that that's what you wanted to do, I would be hard pressed to find one that wouldn't be okay with it. In general, people at LARPs are reasonable folk. They'll understand. A lot of LARPers suffer from this. Many of them will have been through the exact same experience, so you won't be alone and many will understand. Summarize with some quick tips. Don't worry about social anxiety. Throw yourself in because people are usually nice. Don't be a problem player. Play to your strengths. Be sociable. And there's nothing wrong with going to a LARP and finding out it's not for you. It happens. There's no harm done. But I definitely suggest giving LARPing a fair shot before you decide whether or not it's for you or not. Of course, the most important thing is to do what you find fun above all other information. If you're not having fun, that's the only time where I could genuinely say that you're not LARPing correctly, because ultimately this hobby is about having fun. So that's what you should be getting out of your LARPs, having fun. Thank you all for sticking with this video up until the end. I hope that the information that I've talked about is stuff that you'll find useful and find informative, and that you will use it to hopefully improve your first ever LARP event. If even one person takes this information to heart and applies it and finds out that they had a lot of fun at their first event, this will be a win in my books. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you'll tune into other episodes later, and ta-ta.